Is that a Tuesday night thing or is it a lunch thing?
No, it's a lunch thing. They're gonna do it virtually. You can sign up to go in person.
I would imagine. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our March 2nd, 2021 board meeting. Everyone, please join me for the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Our first order of business would be to see if there's any corrections or additions to the agenda review.
Well, Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda today.
I'll move the agenda. Landcamer?
Got a motion of a second? Second from Mark. Thank you. Any discussion? Stephanie, would you roll call, please?
Commissioner Papp?
Aye.
Commissioner People?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Struenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, our first business on the agenda is the planning and zoning with Garrett Rolfing, land use specialist on the feedlot annual report. Good morning, Garrett.
Morning, Commissioners. Morning, Gary.
Morning.
Here today to just take a quick review of the 2020 feedlot report. It's a request for approval of the 2020 Blue Earth County feedlot report. The attached 2020 county feedlot report is a summary of many related tasks that were completed by the county feedlot officer during the 2020 calendar year. This report is very similar to previous annual reports. Blue Earth County does earn performance credits for a number of these categories, included but not limited to site inspections and owner assistance. Performance credits are paid out to counties for work that has been done above and beyond the minimum program requirements of the delegation agreement. The report is an annual summary of the goals that are presented in the county's delegation agreement with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. The report shows there were 40 compliance inspections completed in 2020. However, those are sites that are required to be registered per Minnesota Rule Chapter 7020. There were an additional 10 inspections completed that do not fall under the requirements of our delegation agreement. One additional item that is not reflected in this report is the closure of liquid manure storage areas. In 2020, we were able to properly abandon 15 liquid manure storage areas at 9 different sites. Pending approval, this document will need the signature of the chair of the county board, and this form will be forwarded to the MPCA to be added to the records for the county. The board action is a signature from the board chair approving the feedlot report.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the?
Motion to approve, Stuenberg.
Second.
Second.
We got a second from Pap. Any discussion or questions for Garrett?
Just a comment. I really appreciate your articulating what's in the report because the form is very confusing.
It is.
So thank you.
Yep.
And this is a report that Garrett always does a great job on every year. We appreciate all his help on it, and he keeps us up to date on it. So thank you for all that work and
Thank you.
effort.
Mr.
Kevin?
Chair, I just want to appreciate mentioning the fact that we've abandoned 15
Yes.
shut down manure storage. That's kind of a difficult task sometimes, but yet an important task and kind of an uphill climb, I think, at some time. So appreciate the work on that and just urge to continue to work on that. Over time, we'll hopefully get to where we want to be on all of those.
Yeah.
Good comment, Kevin. Thank you. Any other discussion on the feedlot annual report? I have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, I'll ask Stephanie to do the roll call.
Commissioner Papp?
Aye.
Commissioner People?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Struenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Garrett, for all
Thank
your
you.
work.
Thanks, Garrett.
Appreciate it. All right, at this time, we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, our drainage items. We have several items to deal with. So our first item, we'll be bringing back our County Ditch 35 project. So good morning. And our hearing today is to continue the February 2nd preliminary hearing on the proposed improvements of lateral to County Ditch 35. The purpose of this hearing is to consider the petition for the drainage project with all matters pertaining to the preliminary survey report. Since most attendees will be attending virtually, I would ask anyone that would like to speak to introduce themselves before speaking, and then please mute your phone if you are not speaking. We will now hear from the drainage staff and go over the jurisdictional documents. Good morning, Craig.
Good morning. As this is a continuation of the February 2nd, 2021 preliminary hearing to a time and date certain, no new notices were mailed. The DNR letter was read into the record on January 19th, 2021. There are no, and as far as other jurisdictional documents, the only thing we have is we do have a letter, response letter from ISG to the DNR letter that did not make the board packet.
Correct.
So I've been asked to read that letter, that response letter into the record. This is a memorandum from Chuck Brandel, professional engineer, dated February 25th, 2021. Subject: additional information for Blue Earth County Ditch 35 from DNR ISG Blue Earth County meeting on February 22nd, 2021. ISG staff, Chuck Brandel, professional engineer, and Joe Donkers, along with Blue Earth County staff Craig Austinson and Ryan Hineker, met with DNR staff on Monday, February 22nd, 2021, virtually to discuss the project. ISG went over the scope of the project, showed drone footage of the extensive erosion, and went over the design and answered DNR staff questions. The following memorandum provides the additional modeling information requested by the DNR with regards to County Ditch 35 system that was requested in the follow-up meeting regarding preliminary engineer's report for Blue Earth County Ditch 35. From Todd Colander, South District Manager of the Ecological Water and Resources Division of the Department of Natural Resources, received on February 25th, 2021. Drainage capacity. ISG will include information in the preliminary engineer's report as well as the information in the DNR response letter to clarify any confusion regarding drainage coefficients within County Ditch 35 or its outlet. These are in the preliminary engineer's report, but will be in the modeling reports section of the final engineer's report for easy review by DNR staff. Model and model report. Most of the information requested by the DNR is ready to be provided to the DNR. A portion of the information requested by the DNR is currently not required by statute, but can be produced by ISG at the request of the board, specifically the volume of flow leaving the system in the existing and proposed scenarios. It is important to note that additional information requested take further investigation and that can be completed within 2 days. The encrypted XP swim models have been sent to the DNR for their review. Adequacy of the outlet. Additional investigation regarding the adequacy of the outlet can be done at the request of the board. In the final engineer's report, ISG will continue to look at design alternatives to limit flow rates in the 100-year event. However, if this investigation does not result in any feasible designs that will limit the 100-year storm event, it is in the opinion of the engineer, the outlet still would still be adequate to handle the increased flow rates when considering the reduction in sediment that will be seen on County Ditch 35. The flow rates are reduced or very closely matching to existing, and flood elevations downstream are not increased significantly. Also, grades are closely matched and erosion control measures will be put in place to reduce outlet velocities. Design alternatives. The preliminary engineer's report completed by ISG focused on the petition submitted to the Blue Earth County, which was to replace the sloughing ditch along a tile ditch overflow channel. Alternative designs were included and presented to the landowners in the feasibility stage, and many have been eliminated by the landowners as not feasible or desired. As a result, ISG did not include it in the preliminary engineer's report. However, this can be included in the final engineer's report upon the board's request. Slope stability. ISG typically performs a slope stability analysis, but did not in this case, as we have already know the slopes are unstable and thus will be flattening them out considerably in the recommended option. Ditch slopes will be flattened in the improvement portion of the system. The ditch slope will not be steepened as part of this project. Portions of the ditch will be cleaned north of Tassau 29, and side slopes repairs will be completed in a few areas along the section of the open ditch. It is the opinion of the engineers that the slopes upstream of County Road 29 will not be negatively impacted as a result of the improvement. However, under the circumstances that these slopes need repair, a repair to this section can be completed, but is not within the scope of the petition. Additional slope stability tests can be completed at the request of the board. Engage local conservation groups. ISG can reach out to Soil and Water Conservation District again and review the project to see if any design changes can be implemented and align with the landowner's best interest. This engagement has already been completed by the Blue Earth County staff. Wetland impacts. Currently, no wetlands are within the alignment of any of the proposed construction of County Ditch 5, and only non-perforated tile will be installed within the scope of this project. As a result, no wetlands will be impacted by the project. ISG can contact the TEP and apply for a no-loss certificate if the Drainage Authority so desires. But a level 1 wetland delineation was performed and there are no wetlands that will be affected. That's it for jurisdictional documents.
Okay, thank you, Craig, for updating us on some documents. And at this point, we will move on and hear from the engineer, Chuck Brandel.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning.
I wasn't, good morning. Oh, this is Chuck Brandel. I wasn't planning on going over the report again, but I am here for questions. I just want to reiterate, this is the preliminary engineering hearing, and this is not the final approval of the project. I believe we did have a productive meeting with the DNR staff. We are going to share the modeling information and allow them some time to go over that, and plan on meeting with DNR staff prior to, if we move forward with the preliminary hearing, meet with DNR staff prior to the final engineering report submittal, to allow enough time to review things before we submit the final engineering report, and they can go over some of the modifications that we have, and if there's any other suggestions from their standpoint. I want to reiterate that this project's goal is erosion, not increased drainage capacity, and that many of the storm events we are actually decreasing flood elevations and flow downstream. We did state in the memo that the 100-year was increasing slightly, and we are going to try to figure out if there's a way to adjust some culverts and a few other things to try to accommodate that and lower peak flows for all of the events if possible.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Is there any questions from the county board members for Chuck at this point? Okay, seeing none, we will move back to the public hearing. This is a continuation of the public hearing that we opened up on February 2nd. So at this time, if you would like to comment, please state your name and address for the record, and put your phone on mute if you're not speaking would be appreciated. So at this time, I will open it up for anybody that would like to make comments on County Ditch 35 project we have in front of us today.
I'm here, Brunder.
Okay, there we go.
Go ahead.
Looks like I got Don. Don, did you come in, Don?
Yes, good morning.
There we go.
This is Becky with Becky calling in.
Good morning, Becky.
And from Mankato. And I'd like to thank the board for...
Becky, could I just get your address quick?
Yes, 310 River Park Drive, Mankato.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to voice our concerns regarding the Ditch 35 project, and also to recognize the work that the DNR and ISG have done to find resolution to this project. As homeowners and landowners, we are extremely concerned about the impact of this and other ditch improvement projects that have a devastating downstream effect on our property and other owners on land on the river. We believe it is extremely important to consider best management practice options of water retention at the onset of ditch improvement projects, how these practices can have a positive effect on downstream flooding, erosion, bank sloughing as well as the water quality. Something that we see and experience every time we have a rainfall. So it's something that we're very concerned about, and we respectfully request that the county schedule any further action on this project for the April meeting. Thank you for the opportunity to voice our opinion.
Thank you, Becky. Other comments?
Chair Brunder, this is Dan Geralmo from DNR.
Good morning, Dan. Good to hear from you.
Morning. My address is 50507 Secaucus State Park Road, Waterville, Minnesota. And I am the area hydrologist representing the CD35 project for the department. As Chuck mentioned and as Ray mentioned, we have been in communications over this project and some of the concerns that have been addressed in our PER review. And like Chuck mentioned, we're still waiting for the modeling so we can review that. We also strongly recommend a geotechnical analysis to get a better handle on the source of the erosion, because we understand the county's been implementing several test procedures to experiment on what might work best and have spent considerable funds doing so. But to get a good handle on it, we recommend a geotechnical analysis, some soil borings to try to figure out why it's happening and what would be the best practice to solve that. We also have concerns about the outlet adequacy. I know the engineering report says they've addressed flows, and whether or not statute allows a thorough review of pre and post project flows, we would like to see that, because we believe the accumulated impact is not being accounted. And routinely the existing tile does not get reviewed, but we know most of the time that that existing tile remains functional and is connected to the new improvement somehow, resulting in increased flows at the outlet and increased flooding at the outlet. So we'd like to have the engineering firm in the county review that in more detail and share the results with us and have another discussion. But feel that approval of the PER is maybe premature and recommend tabling it again so we can get some of this stuff squared away before we roll into the final engineering report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, for those comments. We appreciate you guys calling in. Other comments?
Hello, this is Mark Bolsacker, and I would like to comment about it seems from the materials that I've read that it seems prudent to delay this decision and wait for the additional studies and information to be disseminated.
Mark, can I get your address quick?
Yes, it's 419 Nicollet Avenue in North Mankato, Minnesota.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity to take part and for your work on these controversial problems.
Okay. Did you have something you wanted to present, Mark?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I don't really have anything to present, but other than from what I've been able to read, it seems prudent to wait till the additional information is available and disseminated to the involved parties. As Becky said, I would be in favor of her asking that this be tabled, this decision be tabled, so that can happen.
Okay. Thank you, Mark, for that clarification. Thank you for your comments. Thanks for calling in today. Other comments on County Ditch 35 project?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
My name is Don Arnowski, and I work with the Friends of the Minnesota Valley. My address is 1722 Princeton Avenue in St. Paul. We're a membership organization with members in counties throughout the Minnesota Valley, and we're very interested in water resource and flooding issues. I want to compliment Blue Earth County and ISG for the way you are working seriously with the concerns of DNR. You are setting the pace for the 36 counties in the valley, and we really appreciate it. We recognize that you are working hard to try to come to a common understanding of what the effects of the project are and how they might be minimized and the downstream effects might be reduced. This is so very important because we all know the water resources of the Minnesota Valley are not in the condition that they should be in, that they could be in, and that they must be in. So we very much appreciate the patience you've shown everybody in trying to come to a common understanding of the science, the information, and the potential outcomes of this project. That said, I have reviewed the public documents that have gone back and forth, and it seems like there is a narrowing of difference, a closer understanding of what's being proposed, what the engineering firm is determining to be results, and what the DNR interprets. I ask you to allow that process to continue just until your next month's meeting, because I believe it enhances everybody's confidence in the outcome, and it sustains our belief that what is being done is the best that can be done. So we very much appreciate everybody's patience and understand that this has been a long process, but the extra effort to try to make sure that the technical expertise that our state agency offers and the technical expertise that Mr. Brandel's firm offers are coming to a common understanding of it. I think that is the best outcome for the citizens of the region and the citizens of the state, and we would ask that the county board consider continuing this hearing just one more time so that these final pieces of information and alternatives can be examined. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don, for those comments. We appreciate that. Other comments on County Ditch 35?
Commissioners, can you hear me?
Yep.
This is Mike Roll, Crystal Waters Project.
Good morning.
Tammy Lane. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you still hear me, Commissioners?
Yep.
My name is Mike Roll, President of Crystal Waters Project. Address 102 Tammy Lane, Mankato. And I would just like to comment on drainage tile a little bit. Probably not directly affected at CD 35, but I would just like the county board to take into consideration the water displacement coming from all the private tiles. I don't know if that's in the engineer's report. I'm not an engineer. I can tell you what I've witnessed in my watershed, and that's extensive erosion from sandy soil water banks on a county ditch. I believe there's alternative methods to putting in more efficient tile that creates more water displacement, cover croppage, no-till, things like that. So I would hope that as we move forward with water quality issues, that some of these are taken into consideration. Also, with that being said, just remembering that there are 7 rivers that come into the Mankato region, and the town of Mankato, and there's only 1 river coming out. So anytime we increase water pressure upstream, we're gonna affect everybody downstream. So that's all I've got. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate the call. Other comments on County Ditch 35? Other
I would
comments?
like to make one more. This is Mark Osacker again.
Okay.
And I've already given my address. Mr. Randall mentioned a 100-year event. I know that in the weather numbers we see every day, average temperature, average precipitation, these are averages that are revised periodically. Like when we break an average or have a new high record, that's in relationship to data that's been revised within 10, 20 years, I'm not sure the time. I wonder when you mentioned 100-year event, are these 100-year events, are they rolling averages? Are they, is this data revised? Do we really expect a 100-year event to be that rare anymore? That's all I have to say. I'm not trying to derail the business at hand, so I'll be quiet. Thank you.
No, that's a good question, Mark, and I'll have Chuck answer that question after I'm done with the public hearing. Any other comments on County Ditch 35 project? I do have a request here in front of me from a Gregory Smith. I'm not sure if he got to call in, but I did get a notice that he was going to be on the call today, so I just want to make sure I acknowledge his receipt of his request to speak. So I'm just going to ask if there's a Gregory Smith that's on the call. Okay, I just want to make sure we had that read, that we acknowledge that he sent the record or sent the memo in to get his name recognized. So last time, any other comments on County Ditch 35?
Mr. Commissioner, this is Robert Hobart from Lake Crystal, 51786 Eagle Lane. And I just wanted to follow up and thank the county board for working closely with the DNR on the review of the ISG's report, and would just ask that the county board consider the cumulative effect of the increased flow. I know that Chuck had mentioned that the increased flow was fairly small on this project, but as we all know, there's a number of county ditch projects within the county, and each one of those contributes to the overall increase in the discharge and the effects on the downstream landowners. So just ask that the county board continue to consider all those effects in this project and also in future projects. So thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Okay. If there's no other comments, I will close the public portion of our meeting and bring it back to the county board for discussion. And at this point, we will pick up our discussion as far as the improvement goes, but I do want Chuck to maybe just answer Mark's question about the 100-year flood event, because I just think that has some importance. And we'll go back and try to work on a couple of the other ones from Dan and the other testified.
Sure. Yeah, Mr. Chair, Chuck Randall again. The 100-year events and all of the events actually have been updated. There was an update that was called Atlas 2014. So it came out in 2014. And I'll just take the 100-year event, for example. Prior to that update, for Blue Earth County, we were using just over 5 inches in a 24-hour period, 5 inches of rain for a 100-year event. We are currently using 7.5.
Oh, wow.
So a significant increase based on updated rainfall and updated climate information. So that comes out, that information is provided from the USGS, it is standard. It's a standard that's used throughout the engineering world and in Minnesota. There also, I won't get too technical, but there was a study done in Minnesota looking at how our rain falls. We use something that's called a standard hydrographs, or how fast rain falls, and that update was done just, I believe, 2 years ago, and we use that modeling information also. So when we look at these events, we're modeling more intense, faster rainfalls than we did 7 years ago. So,
All right.
one other thing just to point out that this is the preliminary stage. There is a lot of information being requested for more details. I feel, just my opinion, that a lot of that is covered in the final engineer's report, because that is a more detailed report. So it's something to consider, that we could go over a lot of the information that was requested and include that in the final engineer's report. Again, the preliminary hearing is not a final approval project.
Thank you for that answer, Chuck, on the 100-year flood event, and also the clarification on this is the preliminary report and the final will be coming forward. And can you just tell me, Chuck, how long does it take between now and before the county board would see the final report? An estimate.
Probably, in this case, maybe 3 months. Just knowing that there's a few things to work on, some back and forth in a meeting with the DNR. Actually, I'd probably say 4 months. Probably 2 months of work, a meeting, and then once that report is submitted, there is a 60-day review period, both from the submittal and then setting a hearing. So, so it would be 4 months at the earliest, more than likely. The reviewers also need to finish their report. I know they're working on it, and close. So that needs to be completed also. We would also have another landowner meeting outside of the hearing to go over the viewer's report and any changes that we made.
Chair?
Okay, thank you, Chuck.
I've got a question
Vance,
for
you got a
Chuck.
question?
Chuck, you made mention quite a few times in your report that if the board requests, your company can do a test or do something. I believe the board is going to request that. But do we need to do that in a motion?
I would.
Yeah.
Okay, how many of those would we need to, to do?
I think you could do it all under the information provided in the response to the DNR letter. Just say, cover the items in that response letter with one motion, and you'd be able to cover up the items that additional work that was asked for.
All right.
Yeah, that's, Mr. Chair, that was what I was going to ask, and I don't know if it's proper that at this point I would move to continue the ditch hearing or whatever, to have the findings be taken, or all the items considered today to be taken to consideration, and then for then await a final report then from Chuck and ISG regarding all the.
And I would second that.
Yeah, I was trying to shorten it.
Well,
to cover what was in the DNR letter.
Yeah, I think just to cover what was in the DNR report
Okay,
by ISG then.
Just to clarify the motion, you would like to move forward with the project, with the project, and have the other items that were mentioned
Yes.
reported in the final report, so not to continue the public
I
hearing
guess
portion.
Yeah, that would be the wording.
So, well, here, let me, I do have a motion and a second. We'll maybe try to clarify it, but let me give you the options, and maybe we'll discuss. So our options are to accept the findings of order, subsequently amended, and order the detailed survey report from the viewers be completed for the proposal. If more information is needed, we can continue the hearing date, which I think we're past that, or we can reject the proposal, and I don't think anybody's interested in rejecting the proposal. So I think if I may, Commissioner, if we're trying to move the forward process, we could have the motion read, accept the final engineering's report, but have Chuck follow up with the items that were brought up at today's meeting.
Correct.
Preliminary report.
The preliminary report, correct, thank you, yeah.
The preliminary.
So,
Is that-
Mr. Chair, just for clarification that I have up on the screen, the order, we have 5 items listed there. Would it be the addition of a 6th item to encompass the request to have all the items covered in the DNR response included in future reports?
Correct. So we would be finishing the public hearing portion, but we're going to move to the next step. We're going to approve the preliminary today and give the DNR and ISG to work together for the next 4 months, up to 4 months.
June, or what, I don't know, makes it June then, or July?
And then add that condition to the findings.
Correct.
Okay?
Yeah.
Should I go over that motion one more time, or who's recording the motion? Do they want to read it back to me? I'll summarize the motion.
Stephanie, do you have it?
Summarize one more time, please.
All right. At this time, we have a motion on the table to accept the findings and the orders as amended, and the order will be detailed survey report to the viewer's report completed by the proposed project, and we will add to the other items that are on that, the items we talked about today.
That are in the
Chuck Brand.
DNR report.
Yeah,
The DNR report.
the DNR report.
So we're moving on from the public hearing portion and approving the preliminary engineer's report with this motion.
Kevin?
Okay, so I have a first and a second. Now let's have a discussion if everybody understands the motion. I think Kevin had a question first.
And maybe not so much discussion specifically on this motion, but maybe a couple things in general. I appreciate a lot of the public comment talked about not just this ditch, but ditches in general. And I think I'm probably maybe the person that's newest to the table on 35 specifically, as I've done my background. It sounds like it's been over 10 years of landowner meetings, over $500,000 of repairs, and just a lot of work done on this. But I guess I think one thing we need to remember as we look at drainage, or really which is water management, I guess in my mind, no matter where it is in the county or anywhere, quite frankly, I think there's 3 things that we continually need to remember and make sure we ask ourselves. And that is it well engineered? Is it properly installed? And is it carefully maintained? And I think that's important for all of them. Again, I was not as familiar with this specific project. So quite frankly, last Sunday afternoon, we thought we'd take a romantic drive and toured Ditch 35. And, you know, it's not in an area that I drive by a lot, but there's a lot of ditch bank erosion, that soil instability. There's a whole lot more going wrong with the current ditch than going right. I appreciate the drone footage and things like that, but seeing firsthand was important. The test section looked well, and I appreciated being able to see that. So I think we need to remember that this is a preliminary. It's not final. I think all of us are committed to continued conversations. And we know, it's been communicated today, that this process will continue. In fact, in the motion, it'll include the additional information as it becomes available. it will be included in the final report, and at this point, I'm ready to support to move the process forward. And remember, this is preliminary, this is not final.
Thank you, Kevin. Vance?
Well, Kevin said it very well,
Mm-hmm.
and I certainly can't say it as well as Kevin did. He's got the farming background, he can talk about sloughing, he can talk about stuff. My main thing here is to get the information that people are looking for. And second of all, as Kevin said, this is a preliminary hearing. We're moving this along to get more information. If we cut it off now, we won't get that information. So we need to move it along. It's not the final. We haven't approved it yet, but we're looking for more information. That's what this is all about.
Okay. Thank you, Vance. Other comments from the board?
Mr. Chair, I think it's really important that the information be shared as soon as possible, as it can be. This has all been kind of last minute that we've received it. So the earlier these issues can be resolved and move forward, I'm much more comfortable with. It is preliminary, and I think that by starting this and working through it, that the final will determine where we go. But at this point, I'm willing to support it too.
Okay. Thank you, Colleen. Mark, do you have any comments?
I appreciate the comments, and I think everybody were looking at the right direction, and certainly appreciate those out online that commented, and yeah, we want to add them to for the preliminary report, make it complete with all
Thank you, Mark.
necessary information needed.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. And I, too, would like to thank everyone for their input today and in the last couple meetings we've had in the continuation of the hearings. I've had several conversations with several of the people that are on the phones today, and it has been very educating to me. But we do like to keep good working relationship with the DNR and our ditch systems. We think here in Blue Earth County we are on the cutting edge of trying to provide a good outlet for farmers and deal with downstream issues that we have to deal with. And we are always supportive of water retention, or retaining or holding back the water as best we can. And I am sure Chuck will get in touch with Dan and answer his outlet adequacy questions. And I'd like to hear a little bit more about the geotextual survey and Chuck's opinion, but that's not for the public meeting portion here. That's for them to do in the background with the DNR. So I am sure all of that will get done, and I'm sure all the comments that were made today will be taken into consideration before we move forward. And I encourage Chuck and the DNR to keep moving forward and having these meetings and keeping people informed of what's going on, because it is a very big concern of the county board and Blue Earth County to have good quality water and the issues it brings up. So with that, I have a motion and a second to move through the preliminary and add a couple conditions to it. We've had good discussion. Any other last comments before I ask for roll call? Seeing no last comments, Stephanie, we call the roll call for the County Ditch 35 preliminary improvement.
Commissioner Papp?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Struenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for your time. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the board meeting. It is riveting, and I encourage you to listen. But thank you for your input and appreciate it. Kevin?
Mr. Chair, I just would add, just more as general comments as we look at water management and all of these things. I think it doesn't matter if you're a farmer like me, or you're in education, healthcare, government. I think we all need to be committed to continuous improvement and how can we do better, and just appreciate some of the ideas in here as we engage with conservation groups. There are a lot of things as technology changes, and it's been mentioned, cover crops, crop rotation, residue management. There's a lot of things that we can look at. I think another thing that I'm committed to, and that's just the process, the conversations as we've gone to kind of a new system with the Drainage Review Committee from DNR and things like that. I think it's important we do what we can to to improve those communications. Not that they're bad, but we can always continually improve and have that ability to just have more conversations generally, whether it's quarterly or whatever as these go. This is a specific ditch, but many of the things we talked about on this make a difference in all those other ditches and rivers in the county, and I think we need to consider that as well.
Very well put, Kevin. You bring a good perspective to the board. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think Kevin said it well, but I also want to thank all the people who are on this call. Without your input, things don't change. And so it's really important that you stay engaged, and we're all committed to less sediment, better, lower flows, all of those things for the water quality, because it not only impacts Blue Earth County, but it impacts the state of Minnesota. So thank you for your engagement.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We will move on to County Ditch 48 hearing date.
Subject is there is setting a hearing for the acceptance of the contract for the improvement of County Ditch 48. For the background, Blue Earth County Ditch 48 is in the southeast portion of Cambria Township, with a small portion in Butternut Township. An improvement petition was received in 2016. The improvement project was approved, and after advertising for bids was let to Gustafson Drainage LLC. The project is complete. The engineer filed acceptance report on February 8th, 2021. A hearing to accept the contract is required under Minnesota Statute 103E.555. Requested action is that the board hereby grant the request to set a hearing date for the acceptance of the contract on the improvement of County Ditch 48, and that March 23rd, 2021 be the set date for the hearing. A draft of the findings and orders is in your board packet.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the hearing date?
People second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the hearing date from March 23rd to 21? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Path?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Struenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries. Another hearing date for County Ditch 50.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning, Ryan.
I'm here this morning to discuss setting a hearing date for County Ditch 50. We have received a repair petition for County Ditch 50. The petition affects multiple landowners, one of whom is actually on the petition. The need for this repair is the best interest of the County Ditch 50 system. Between field inspections, additional engineering and televising, the repairs have been deemed necessary. I'm here to request the approval of setting the hearing date for March 23rd of 2021.
All right, do I have a motion to accept the March 23rd, 21 date for County Ditch 50?
Move to approve.
First from Vance, Pap second. Any discussion? Stephanie, would you do the roll call?
Commissioner Pap?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Struenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries. Now we will work on Judicial Ditch 14 bid award.
We have a bid award for the improvement of JD 14. JD 14 is a 545-acre watershed located in Judson Township. The Blue Earth County Drainage Authority made findings and order approving the improvements to JD 14 on September 8th, 2020. Chuck Brandel, the project engineer of ISG, prepared and advertised for bids for the improvement. Bids were opened on February 12th, 2021. There were 7 bidders with a low bid of $455,333 for bid alternate 2, coming from Chambers Excavating and Trucking LLC of Mankato, Minnesota. The engineer's estimate was $481,354.30. The engineer examined the bids and has verified references. Based on the favorable pricing received, ISG recommends proceeding with the bid alternate 2 option, which includes boring under both county roads rather than open cutting County State 8 Highway 11. This option reduces the need for detour during construction. The bid tabulation and the engineer's letter of recommendation is attached. Requested action, the engineer recommends that the Blue Earth County Board, acting as the drainage authority for JD 14, award the contract for the improvement of JD 14 to Chambers Excavating and Trucking LLC in the amount of $455,333.
Thank you, Craig. Do I have a
Pat
motion?
moves.
Got a first? Do I have a second?
People seconds.
People seconds. Any discussion, questions, or comments? Good bids. I mean, good project. Hearing no other questions or comments, Stephanie, would you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Pep?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Struenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Craig and Ryan, for all your help this morning. Appreciate it. And again, anyone still on the line, thank you for your input at the public hearing this morning. We'll move on now to Public Works. Mr. Tildes.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good
Morning, Ryan.
Well, we've got a handful of action items today for your consideration and some informational items to follow for discussion. The first action item in the packet is resolution of support for the City of Vernon Center's Local Road Improvement Program grant application. This is for project funding to assist with the city and county shares of Casad 10 and 72, which is projects scheduled in our capital improvement plans, slid back to 2022 and 2023. So with that, I would recommend approval of the city's, the resolution supporting the city's local road improvement program grant application. I would also say I need to get this back to them as soon as possible because the grant deadline is tomorrow.
Oh, do I have a motion?
Pat moves.
Thank you, Kevin. Second?
Struenberg seconds.
Struenberg. Any discussion?
Just a question. Ryan, do you know when they'll make a decision on the local road
I
improvement
know
program?
they were targeting mid-April, but I think with the number of applications that they're anticipating receiving, it's going to likely be delayed by a couple of weeks, if not more.
Okay.
You know, knowing that we're having 6 applications just coming out of Blue Earth County alone,
Yeah.
and I think several of our colleagues, even in District 7, are looking at similar levels of interest from their small cities and townships as well as the counties. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's going to be very competitive.
Thank you.
Okay, I got any other questions?
Any percentage, and we don't know how much the shot we have at more than anybody else.
You know, so the $75 million is being subdivided amongst the different districts in the state, so we'll get a prorated share of that. I think the number that I had heard coming to the district was in the neighborhood of $3 or $4 million. Don't quote me necessarily, but then that gets subdivided by the different brackets for townships, small cities, and then large cities and counties are kind of competing with each other. So again, it'll be very competitive. So knowing that, we still submitted 2 applications on Friday, one for Casad 7, one for Casad 26. I'm a believer that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, so we might as well swing for it and see what happens.
Maybe we'll win the lottery then.
Well, even if we got partial funding to help with those projects and not the full 1.25 million that we asked for, would be greatly beneficial for our program that's pretty log jammed up in the next couple of years. So,
All right. Got a motion and a second for the Vernon Center LRIP grant application. Any last comments? Stephanie, would you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Pep?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Struenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries.
all right, thank you. The next action item on our agenda is consideration of bids for the 2021 Bituminous overlay contract. I should have distributed these earlier.
We can pass it down, Ryan. We can pass it down.
So the attachment that I just handed out as is our protocol is the actual bid abstract with unit prices from each of the bidders for the project. As it breaks down, The engineer's estimate was $3.166 million. We had 4 bidders: Minnesota Paving Materials, Yulin Brothers, Central Specialties, and Dunick. Minnesota Paving and Materials was the apparent low bidder at $2,908,553.89, which is 8.15% under the engineer's estimate. Yulin Brothers was second at $3.139 million, which is 0.87% under estimate. Central Specialties, $3.147 million, 0.61% under estimate. And Dunick's at $3.635 million, or almost 15% over the estimate. So with that being said, would recommend award to Minnesota Paving and Materials.
I would move to approve Minnesota Paving Materials.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Always a nice project to see that new pavement out there on our county roads.
Absolutely, and so it's a nice robust program for the year. Quite a few miles, and our goal is to get them out and done early this season so we can make room for the rest of the work we have online.
Okay, I got a motion and a second for Minnesota Paving and Materials for $2,908,553.89. Any last questions? Stephanie, will call the roll.
Commissioner Pap?
Aye.
Commissioner Pepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Struenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries.
Fantastic. Action item number 3 is consideration of bids for the 2021 maintenance gravel crushing contract. This year, we received bids from Minnesota Paving and Materials and Yulin Brothers. In the past years, you can see we had bids from Holtmeyer. However, they did not bid in 2021 or 2020. The quantity is 40,000 tons of gravel furnished. We do have a specification that it has to be within so many miles of the city of Mankato, so that it's not a significantly long haul, or there is a deduction that we take out of the bids if they plan on stockpiling it elsewhere. So with that being said, for 2021, Minnesota Paving and Materials was the apparent low bid, $6.95 per ton, or $278,000. And Yulin Brothers was second at $8.80 per ton, or $352,000. With that being said, I would recommend award to Minnesota Paving and Materials.
I'll move approval of Minnesota Paving and Materials.
Thank you, Colleen. Do I have a
I'll second.
Second from Mark. Thank you. Any discussion? Pretty straightforward. Okay, I have a motion for Minnesota Paving for $278,000 for the gravel. Hearing no other discussion, Stephanie, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Pap?
Aye.
Commissioner Pepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Struenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries.
And the last action item was consideration of bids for the motor grader rental contract. I do know this item is below is within the procurement policy guidelines for staff to sign. I just wanted to bring it forward again this year for the board's information, especially with respect to Commissioner Papp joining the board. This is a contract for effectively a plow route in the winter and grading of the gravel roads in the very southwest corner of Blue Earth County, primarily Pleasant Mountain Township. So this is effectively another plow route that we don't have a motor grader or an operator for. In the past, we did talk about the cost associated with covering this with our own staff would be a full-time heavy equipment operator position and a new motor grader added to the fleet. So we have only been receiving one bid in the past 3 to 4 years, and that's been from Erosion Control Plus, which was formerly Wirtz Construction. The rates are fair, and we check those against our contract equipment rental rates that we use on our construction projects, and their responsiveness has been good. The work quality's been good. No complaints. So with that being said, I would recommend award of the bid to Erosion Control Plus for total estimated hours $75,650.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept?
I'll move Erosion Control Plus.
Have a second?
Stuenberg seconds.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Stephanie will call the roll.
Commissioner Papp?
Aye.
Commissioner Pepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Struenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries.
All right. On to some informational items then. As far as project updates go, CASA 41 work, the bridge replacement southeast of Mankato, work is scheduled to resume this spring when conditions are fit to pour the bridge deck and begin the approach roadway work. With that being said, there's a June 15th completion date, so folks do ask you about that. We should be on schedule to hit that objective pending any obviously extremely wet conditions in the spring. CASA 16 trail from Stadium Road to Pleasant Street. Work is scheduled again to resume this spring when conditions are fit. That one also has a June 15th completion date, and that's primarily because of the funding source with the DNR grant requires a request for reimbursement by the end of June. CASA 27 reconstruction from Minnesota 14 to CASA 2. Utility relocations are underway. For Xcel Energy and Great River Energy will begin relocating the large transmission poles within the next couple of weeks. We were just notified. The pre-construction meeting date has been set for March 18th, and work will begin this spring. So it'll be a very busy corridor of the county out there, our CASA 27 corridor, with that segment north of Highway 14, as well as the piece in Eagle Lake, the reconstruction from Thomas Drive to LeRae Avenue in the city limits. That's on schedule to open bids March 31st, with the city council approving the project, and the assessments is the other piece of that that somewhat muddies the waters for delivering that project. So the city's got to work its way through the assessment side of it. And then we would anticipate bringing that to the county board on April 13th for award. County State Highway 57, roundabouts at US Highway 14. Design has been approved by MnDOT District 7 and Central Office, so that's a major project hurdle to have cleared, and we should be in good position. Now we're working through the agreements process with MnDOT. We have to have a cooperative construction and maintenance agreements put into place, so my objective would be, because of the sequence that has to happen, to bring that to you at my non-regular board meeting or your next board meeting in 3 weeks and approve that at that point in time, so that we can open bids on April 7th and award on April 13th. There's several steps throughout that. Yes, sir? Stan?
I did get a call from CNS, and I gave him your phone number. Talked about signage for businesses along there. I don't know if he called you or not, but what's the? I told him I was pretty sure there would be signage for businesses and stuff, but to give you a call.
Correct. So we'll have an actual detour route up, depending on which way the traffic is coming from. They'll have to follow the detour. And then the agreement that we have with the city and with the state is that wayfinding signage for businesses that are interested in that will go through the city, and the city will install posts, but the businesses will be responsible for buying a sign from a local vendor, and then the city would put it up for wayfinding purposes.
Okay.
That's been consistent with the city's practice on several past projects, so we've defaulted to that.
So and I'm not sure where the detour will go at that point, because
depends which way the traffic's coming from, obviously, because it's a little bit circuitous, but a lot of it we anticipate will be 3rd Avenue will be the shortest way to get traffic, especially into CNS for deliveries, etc.
Yeah.
So with that, we'll be able to put up those wayfinding route signs if the businesses desire to purchase them. We'll be able to put them up on the city streets or the county roads. We do run into issues if they want them up on Highway 14. That's a whole nother can of worms that we'd probably rather avoid. Yes.
MnDOT's good. All right.
They've got policies with respect to that are pretty prohibitive of putting up those types of signs.
Mr. Chair, if the bids are awarded on the 13th of April, when do you expect construction to start?
Well, we would certainly anticipate rolling contracts over, getting those authorized, and we would hope to maybe be started by early May if weather conditions are fit. You know, we've got an objective of trying to have the project completed prior to school resuming in September, so that we're minimizing that impact to Loyola.
Loyola, yeah.
Good plan.
Okay. Victory Drive, County Stated Highway 82 from Stadium to Hoffman. Plans are into the state for approval right now, so that's another one that we're looking at opening bids on April 7th and awarding April 13th. So I think last month you guys gave me a hard time about it was an expensive month. Next month, I'm just warning you, it's going to be a wild ride.
I'm just hearing the cha-ching, cha-ching going through here, so.
Well, we're hopeful with getting a lot of these out in April to receive good bids. They are pretty significant projects when you look at the scope of them, collectively speaking. Victory and 57 are no small feat, nor is 27 in Eagle Lake is a pretty large city to reconstruct. So personally, I'm excited to get those out. I'd rather be seeing those go out in March and April like this than May or June, because it does generally lend better bid results for us. So we'll have a much stronger grasp on where our costs are and if we have any excess funds that we can roll over into future year projects or pick up those shares of some of the local bridges that we need to tackle as well after we get these open. So we look at awarding that one on April 13th as well. County State Highway 1 from 9 to 90. Again, that's going to be a 2-year project. We're finalizing the plan changes as we meet with landowners. There's some minor tweaks that are necessary, and we're incorporating those, and we're going to get a final plan set approved. And then in addition to that, MnDOT has gone to the standard of updating their standard specifications every 2 years, which may sound like a good idea up front, but for us it's really not that helpful, because as you're developing these projects and have projects sitting on the shelf that are shovel ready, item numbers change and minor details change that are really, for the most part, irrelevant to the project as a whole, and we have to go through and then update effectively the entire plan set to reflect those specification changes. So it's costs us money on bridges, it costs us money on projects like this. So that has to be done, and then we'll be looking at getting that out to bid as the right-of-way comes in. That's been the other challenge out there, is there are some unique parcels, unique ownership situations. We have one where we need to utilize some right-of-way for drainage and for fill slopes, and it's one of those circumstances where the landowner's ownership is very hard to we know who owns it, but we can't find them. They're very elderly. We're not even certain if they're still alive or if it's defaulted to their children. So Jack is diligently working on that, but it's hard when you don't get response phone calls and trying to track down the ownership chain. So we'll stay tuned on a couple of those parcels. But we're getting close, and we would anticipate late spring or early summer bid and award, and then getting that started. And obviously, again, that will carry through 2022 construction project. And I, for one, will be very happy to have that series of projects behind us and have that road improved. It's been a battle, which is obviously why the state was more than happy to give it to us. But you know, it's really rewarding to see that final project in the horizon as well. The overlays, we would anticipate the work will begin after spring weight restrictions are lifted. They're going to go on. I just saw this Thursday, so we'll be putting up signs for spring load postings, and the work we would anticipate should start as soon as those load restrictions are taken off, which is generally 6 to 8 weeks. Bridge replacements, we have those 4 bridges that are fully or partially funded on CASAS 7, 40, and 40, County Road 151, County Road 169, that we are working on getting delivered in the next year or two. With that being said, we're finalizing those plan updates we talked about with CASAS 7, intending to bid and complete that work in early season of 2021. Given the fact that we're going to be working again on CASAS 7 at the south edge of Mapleton next year, we want to avoid having it closed in 2 locations, so we'd like to get that bridge done early this spring. It's more work to dump on top of staff, but they were actually eager to get one of them done, and then we may look at County Road 151, similar to what we did with 41, I'm sorry, starting it in the fall and then wrapping it up in the spring. That's a relatively short detour for the folks out there. CASAS 7 in Mapleton, the design is set to begin. We actually have a kickoff meeting today at 1 p.m. for the project design with the city, ourselves, and our consultant engineer. And then again, we did submit the LRIP funding application for our share of the project, the city also put in an LRIP funding application for the Borkert Street intersection. So hopefully one or both of those, I think, would be fantastic candidates, especially given the tie to the new K-12 school and the regional impact that that'll have. I think those are great candidates. Rapidan Dam update. Bar Engineering is working on review of the historical documents per the scope of our agreements. Blue Earth County is coordinating soil borings and access for the soil borings. Our objective is to get soil borings taken necessary for the reports done prior to flows increasing and things getting really muddy. So we want to try to take advantage of it while the ground is still partially frozen. Eagle Creek will be performing the Part 12 inspection in late May, and then an updated potential failure mode analysis study in June. We'll be attending those meetings. Commissioners, if anybody is interested, I know county commissioners have sat in on those on the past. If you're interested in the process at all or the discussions, I'm more than happy to share those dates with any commissioner. So
That'd be good.
Don't feel obligated, but I'll be more than happy to send those on to you. I really don't have any other noteworthy updates from Eagle Creek regarding where they're at in the lease process. There's really been no news. I've been trying to work on them about getting some of these historical documents released. Some of them are considered critical energy infrastructure classification documents, so they're not necessarily public information. So if we share those with BAR and they get put into a report that is then public information, there's concern. So I'm trying to work through that process, and it's very slowly, but I think I've gone to some separate staff and I'm making a little bit of progress on that. So wading through the bureaucracy of it. Last but not least, parks updates. So in the parks budget, we have some reasonable sized projects. One of them is replacement of the Red Jacket stairs that go up from the parking lot at Red Jacket Park up to the trail just north of the trestle. And if you've been on those, you know that they're wood, and they're west facing, and there's considerable amount of obviously tree canopy and foliage that doesn't allow much sunlight to hit those stairs. So the issue we run into is obviously the foliage of the leaves falling down, but then we also get moss on the stairs, so they become very slippery anytime they're wet. And they're kind of always wet because the sun never dries them off, which has also led to the decay of the wood. So as we looked at replacement of those stairs in the budget, we're actually looking at using a steel stairwell and putting that in so that water will be able to drain through the open graded steel, and the leaf accumulation and the moss growth, etc. Easier to clean, easier to maintain. So we're moving forward with getting quotes on that, getting a footing design done for the stairwell design, and then we'll be getting quotes. So we're going to get some general design guidelines set up for the bidders to use as a guide, and then they'll actually engineer the stairwell and provide quotes on it. So that's moving forward to get done this year. The Regional Parks and Trails Commission Master Plan update. The final plan modifications are underway after our most recent meeting and the City of Mankato's meeting reviewing the draft plan. So our intent would be to bring that to you at a subsequent meeting for approval of the final master plan, and then we'll submit it to the Parks and Trails Commission. And then hopefully we'll find out that we're eligible to start applying for future projects for funding. Bray Park, just a little bit of an update. We did have a reasonable sized budget for playground updates. The existing playground set, we've been kind of piecemealing it together, and I should have emailed this out, but this is the beach playground. So we're actually working on a replacement for that, and it'll be part of the design concept is that it will be ADA accessible, and it'll have it'll be connected, but play areas for really young children and then one for a little bit bigger children, so that they're kind of have a little bit different sizes of slides and stairwells, etc., so that the little kids can play on one part and a little bit bigger kids can play on the other. So we're moving forward with that project, trying to get that done this year as well. So we're excited about those improvements. We were piecemealing slides out and pulling chunks of playground equipment off of other parks and kind of reducing the scope of those just to keep this one functional, because the slide was getting to the point where there were exposed pieces of plastic, and it's served its useful life, and it's probably one of our most highly used park playgrounds. So excited to get that underway. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Ryan? That's exciting to hear. That is a busy park, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate you.
So how long did it take for the parks to get filled up on March 1st?
It went pretty popular. I haven't seen a report out on it, but I know unfortunately, we had some phone issues with the new system where calls were being dropped once they were stacked up 3 deep on the line. So there were some unhappy folks. So if you do hear about that, I'll forewarn you. We have IT looking at it now, but unfortunately, that's after the fact, and we had no idea that there were going to be those types of issues with respect to the system, that once it became so log jammed, when the third call was trying to ring in, then the other ones would go to like a dead air. It was really peculiar, and obviously that all happened yesterday.
Oh, I can just imagine the anger when somebody calling in.
Yeah, so
We have an online option too, right?
we do, and it all has to be done online regardless. So even if you call the caretakers and you're talking with them, they still have to go in through the same portal and make that entry. And I know in the past there have been issues with the caretakers just with the physical internet connection being less than desirable in the rural areas of the parks. So, you know, it's something I think the Park Advisory Board needs to continue to talk about. Do we want to look at other models of maybe structuring it to a 90-day in advance reservation that you can, and then kind of break up those major holiday days so we decrease the web traffic and the phone traffic? Could be an option to think about in the future. We know it's less than desirable, but the server's size to handle the workload, but when everybody wants in at the same day and time, it's problematic. But we also know people like to know that they're either getting a spot or they're not getting a spot, so that if they want to go camping on the 4th of July and can't get into Bray Park, they can make a reservation at another park. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword.
And the big issue is people want to do it now that everybody's expecting COVID to be pretty much completed by this summer. They want to be able to camp with their families, and so they want to get all the family together. And so I'm sure they're trying to get everybody in the same area, which is really hard.
It is. No matter where you go, it's hard to do that with a large group. Yeah. So good news is people are interested in using our parks at a high level. So
we have some of the best. Thanks to our Parks Department.
Well, thank you, Ryan, and thank you for the tour yesterday. They did a great job setting that up. I thought we were very well treated with all the places we went to, and the bus ride worked good. So good tour yesterday.
Yeah, I wish I could take credit for any of it, but I was along for the ride, and I'm very appreciative of your guys' time spent to take a full day out of your busy schedules to review those facilities.
Sure taught me a lot. I tell you, that was some amazing information.
Yeah, I have to thanks to Bob and John for lining up the tours. They did a great job with it. So,
all right.
I always think you learn so much when you see it.
Absolutely.
And asking the question as to what would you do differently, I think it's always really important.
Yep. Yeah, I know Chad had pages of notes. I have a file on my phone full of things that I picked up. So definitely good as we start looking at design of our facility.
Yeah.
So, all right.
All right. Thank you,
Great.
Ryan. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, let's take a break till 10:30.
Okay.
welcome back, everyone. We will continue our county board meeting, and the next item we have is to hear from our county attorney, Pat McDermott. Good morning, Pat.
Morning, Pat.
Morning, Pat. Morning. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, thank you. Just a couple of brief updates. We will begin commencing jury trials on March 15th. I've had some conversations with court administration, and the judges will have continued conversations tomorrow with respect to the COVID-19 preparedness plan from the judicial branch. As it stands right now, we would only be able to have one jury trial at a time, but we're hopeful that we can amend that plan, and then we'll be able to have 2 jury trials at a time. We'll just have to bring the prospective jurors in at separate times for those matters. And another matter I just wanted to briefly mention, I have had recent conversations with Sheriff Peterson and with Minnesota State Patrol Captain Jeremy Geiger. In the legislature right now are 2 companion bills in the Senate and the House relating to oral fluid testing for controlled substances. Typically, you know, in years past, I know Commissioner Sternberg would remember, and law enforcement still uses what they refer to as a NIC test to determine what type of substance that they may or may not have, whether it's an opiate, amphetamine, methamphetamine, or some type of heroin or that along those lines. This will be a roadside testing through saliva that will be able to determine and help just be one factor to determine probable cause if a person is impaired by a controlled substance or a hazardous substance. So with that said, the reason that we've been having the conversations, the Office of Traffic Safety will be looking for pilot counties for that, and we will probably ask to be a pilot county for that. In this region, we have 2 DREs, drug recognition experts in law enforcement, and we have a total of 6 phlebotomists that are able to, law enforcement persons that have been trained as phlebotomists, so they can actually do the blood draws. We do also, the Sheriff's Office has the grant position for the driver while impaired deputy, and they will continue on with that, and we're hoping that we can bring something like that to this region. So I'll just keep you informed if we get any further developments, and I know Commissioner Sternberg, given that you're on the committee for Towards Zero Death, you would probably have a little bit of interest in that. If you want additional information, let me know. Other than that, I will simply answer any questions which you may have, and just go from there.
Questions or comments for Pat?
Just a comment, basically, is going to have one more tool in the toolbox to help keep people that are under the influence off the road.
Correct. It'll be it'll be similar to the preliminary breath test that they've used for years for alcohol, but it's just another tool to help them establish probable cause to get a search warrant to either get a blood or a urine sample from the individual.
Great idea.
Mr. Chair, what do they do now?
They basically do their best and try to call in a DRE, and the drug recognition expert can tell based upon if somebody's lethargic, if the size of their pupils, just different cues and clues to determine what type of substance they may be impaired by, and just use that as another avenue and set of tools to be able to determine whether they should apply for a search warrant to get that urine or blood test.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions?
Okay.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Appreciate the update. We'll move down to administration, looks like.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, the first item is the county board minutes for February 16th.
I'll move the minutes. Landcamer?
Seconds.
Got a first and a second for the minutes. Any discussion? Stephanie, can you do the roll?
Commissioner Pap?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Strumberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries.
Next would be the bills for the 2 weeks indicated.
Stumer moves the bills.
People second.
Got a first and a second for the bills. Any discussion? Seeing none, Stephanie, we do the roll?
Commissioner Pap?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Strumberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Motion carries.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 10 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda. Just have informational items for the board this morning. We have a promotion of a probation officer to a probation officer 2 position in our Community Corrections Department. Then we filled an eligibility specialist, which is kind of a new name for our financial workers. We wanted to try and, in our recruitment efforts, make it a little clearer what that role was, and so we've just recently made a change to eligibility specialist, but we filled a position there. Then we've also filled a project engineer position within the Public Works Department, as well as filling an assistant county attorney in the county attorney's office. And then a couple more filling of positions, a 911 dispatcher full-time and a 911 dispatcher part-time within the sheriff's office. We also did receive a resignation from a public health nurse, so it comes at kind of a bad time with the pandemic, but we have initiated recruitment to fill that position. And then we also had a resignation of a clerical specialist 3 in our Public Works Department. So we've initiated recruitment to refill that position. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board might have about the Human Resources agenda.
Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on.
All right, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I'm number 11 in your packet is the Watercraft Inspection Service Agreement. This is a request for myself to be able to sign a service agreement with Water Guards LLC to conduct watercraft inspections for the county. The cost of the contract is $48,408 for up to 2,000 hours of inspections. This is the 5th year that we've done this inspection program to prevent the spread of invasive species in Blue Earth County and throughout the state, really. So we would have inspectors at Lakes Ballantyne, Duck, Loon, Lura, and Madison, and at least 50% of the time would be scheduled on a Friday through Sunday, so kind of hitting those peak uses of water, fishing and boating activity. The time frame associated with the contract is opening day of the walleye fishing season in early May and goes through Labor Day. And so requesting approval of authorization for an agreement with Water Guards LLC to conduct those inspections.
Stuenberg makes a motion.
Second, People seconds.
Got a first and a second. Any discussion, questions, or comments?
It looks like our inspections have been going up every year. And even in 2020, which of course with COVID and everything, I guess everybody wanted to take to the lakes. But our inspections went up. So that's a good thing. We got to keep our lakes and streams clean of invasive species, and that's what we need to do.
Yeah, I would point out the memo also mentions that kind of the most common issue we encounter is the removal of drain plugs. And so I want to encourage everyone as they leave lakes to make sure to pull those plugs.
Yeah, and this program is not so much of an enforcement, but an education piece,
Absolutely.
which I very much appreciate. People are just out there, as you read through it, they say they help them get the weeds off and pull the plugs and just reminders, so good program. Any other discussion on the Watercraft Inspection Service Agreement? Hearing none, I have a motion and a second. Stephanie, we do the roll.
Commissioner Pat?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Stuenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 12 in your packet is a memo regarding a speed and aggressive driving grant that has been made available to the Sheriff's Office. It's a $15,900 grant with a local match of $3,000. You may have read in recent media reports what is being witnessed kind of across the state is more speed as people are doing more telework and the roads are less clogged. We're seeing speed become a more significant issue. And so this grant would be effective February 15th through September 30th of this year, and so we're recommending approval.
I'll move approval of the grant.
I'll second it.
Okay, got a motion and a second on the aggressive driving grant. Any questions or comments?
Anything we can do to keep the road safer.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Stephanie, you would call the roll?
Commissioner Pap?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Stuenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries.
Item number 14 in your packet, well, item number 13 and 14 are kind of interrelated, so there's two action items that I'll be requesting from the board today. Kind of to jump ahead to that, we want to ask for support from the board for the recommended revision of the grant awards. And then if that action is approved, then we'd bring forward a list of eligible applicants for the business assistance grant. So to kind of review where we've been, you know that the legislature passed a program that allocated money to counties for business assistance back in December. They put a March 15th deadline in terms of receiving and approving applications from businesses within counties, and then the money has to be distributed by April 1st. Blue Earth County was the recipient of approximately $1.3 million under this program. We made our program available in middle of January with the deadline for applications on February 12th. I've been back in front of the board periodically with updates and kind of a status of where things are. We did end up with 148 applications that were deemed eligible. That total amount came in at about $866,000, and so we would like to make a recommendation to increase the amount of the grants sort of across the board, with the exception of that category of new businesses, where we would increase a couple of those categories by $2,500. You'll see on page 308 of the packet, the highlighted grant amounts are what we're recommending. We did, when we put this program together, kind of acknowledge that we were building it from scratch and we didn't know what the number of applications would ultimately be. And so we did put in some language that say the grant amounts may be adjusted depending on the requests and the availability of funds. And so we're bringing this recommendation forward to change the amount of the grants, and if that is approved by the board, then we have a list of grant recipients that we would like to present to the board.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
I'll move approval of changing the amount of the grants.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to make an amendment to our grant. Any discussion?
When does it become effective, or when do we go ahead now with the changes?
Well, if this change is approved, we would apply it directly to the list of applicants, which is, we've actually already done that. And so at these levels, we would utilize all of the grant dollars that were made available by the legislature and actually exceed the total by a little over $1,400. So that would have to be covered with local resources.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I got that.
Did you want that part of the part of that also, or is that inclusive in it?
I think if you pass the list of applicants, that sort of becomes the total that, you know, we'll have to sort out then. There is still the possibility that one of the recipients won't follow through with the material that's needed to ensure that a payment is made, so that number could change still, but based on what we're bringing forward, we would utilize all of the funds made available by the legislature plus a little bit of county funds as well.
That's not too bad, figuring that we were thinking we might have to put in close to $500,000 into this, you know. I guess 1,400 is not too bad.
Other questions? Otherwise, I have a motion and a second for the Business Assistant Grant Program amendment. See none. Stephanie, we do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Pap?
Aye.
Commissioner Pepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Struenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries.
Well, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, starting on page 310 of your packet is the list of the eligible applicants. I want to, I guess, call out Mr. Vogel and Ms. Kramlinger, who are here with us from the city of Mankato, who kind of did the heavy lifting in terms of reviewing all these applications. Staff here have worked closely with them to make the adjustments that were just approved by the board. But Courtney really is the one that did all of the work, as communicated with the vast majority of the applicants, and has brought forward this information for the board's consideration. And so we'd like to ask the board's support and approval of the list of applicants. I will tell you there were a number of applications that were deemed ineligible because they did not meet the criteria that was established by the board, but to have 148 businesses and nonprofits receive this level of assistance is really good for our community.
I would move to approve the new list.
Okay,
Second.
Got a first and a second for the new applicants for our business grant program. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, I would just add again, the thanks that, we as a board will get all the credit for this without really doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but thank you to Courtney involved for all that. I know the deadline was tight, a lot came in at the end and things like that, but really appreciate all they did to help make us look good, quite frankly.
Well, I think that was a great partnership. We do a lot of partnerships with the city of Mankato, and Courtney and Paul did a great job here, especially Courtney. I'm not too sure about Paul, but we really appreciate the help that the city of Mankato gave us. Thank you.
Yeah, that echoes for everybody on the board. We appreciate your help with the applications.
Mr. Chair, maybe one other comment that I would make. I think it's important to acknowledge that when the board set up this program, you said to us, let's make sure we kind of weight this in the favor of the hospitality industry. And less than half of the applications came from hospitality industry, so bars, restaurants, gyms, hotels, but almost 60% of the money is going to those businesses. So there was a weighting that did go to that industry a little bit more, because we all recognize that that hospitality industry has been impacted greatly by the pandemic.
Very good.
Sure, I would just also add, not only did we look at that, we also looked at, are there some special circumstances and things that maybe hadn't had some of that assistance in the past, and it was good to see we were able to do some of that as well.
All right, good discussion. Any other last comments? Otherwise, I'll ask for the roll call on the grant recipients. Seeing none, Stephanie, will you do the roll call?
Commissioner Pap?
Aye.
Commissioner Pepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Struenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Paul and Courtney, for all your work and your efforts. Appreciate it. All right, anything else for the good of the order at this point? Bob, have I missed anything on the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair, that's all I had.
All right, we will move on to commissioner reports then. We will start with Vance today.
Sure. Oh, let's see here. Our last board meeting was on February 16th. That afternoon, I had a Central Region meeting for NACO. Then on the 18th, we had our AMC Ledge Conference. So we had our general meeting in the morning, and then I had my Transportation Policy Committee meeting in that afternoon. On the 19th, Colleen and I had our AMC Board of Directors meeting. Let's see, on the 24th, I had a Transportation Alliance Zoom meeting with Margaret Anderson Kelleher and the Met Council Chair Charlie Zelli. That afternoon, I had a RAC Zoom with the new Ag Secretary, the U.S. Ag Secretary.
Tom Vilsack.
Yep, and that was pretty nice to see Tom back on board. On the 25th, I went up to HCMC and got my second shot for COVID, so I'm pretty happy about that. Now, if I can just get my wife her shots, and we'll be kind of comfortable going back to restaurants again. On the 26th, MSSA Region 9 Dignitaries Legislative Breakfast was in that morning, and then later on that morning we had our legislative discussion with legislators. Actually, right before our meeting at 10:30, I had Highway 14 Partnership Zoom meeting with to see what was going on. So I had that morning was kind of filled up, which was fine because after my second shot, I didn't feel like going out and doing much anyway. But and that would be the end of mine.
All right, thank you, Vance.
Oh, and of course, yesterday's
road tour.
Public Works, tours to St. Croix County, Wisconsin, and to Washington County, Minnesota, Stillwater, to see their Public Works building, and trying to do our due diligence and for Blue Earth County.
Thank you, Vance. Clean.
Vance has mentioned a lot of stuff. NACO Central Committee, I had us on the 16th on the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership. We're looking at new board members. The 18th, the Ledge Conference, and in the afternoon I had the Health and Human Services Policy Committee, plus Economic Development, Workforce, and Housing, where we joined with general government. 19th, AMC board meeting, and I sent out the minutes for that. And that afternoon, I had a meeting with the U.S. Senate Rules Committee, the minority staff, to talk about elections and the bills that are moving forward. On the 22nd, I went to the city council meeting, Zooming it, and the discussion is on a new tower at the airport, the possibility of that. The city would have to apply for that. They still have many questions, but that meeting was held on the 22nd. The 23rd, I had Airport Commission early in the morning, and we're the second busiest airport in the state, which is pretty amazing, isn't it? And it's because of MSU and their flight school. On 26th, MSSA and the meeting with the legislators, which I thought went really well. Yesterday we were on the road, and then I had a NACO Finance and Intergovernmental Affairs Committee on the trip back. So that finishes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Clem.
Surprising what you can do with Zoom, isn't it?
It is, it is.
Mark?
Okay, on the 17th, had Minnesota Valley Council of Governments, they called a General Assembly. We haven't met for about a year, really, and then that's with, the various towns, and then you got LeSueur and Blue Earth counties as part of that. Then on the Thursday, that 18th of Feb, we had the AMC, and then also had my, that in the morning, then had our General Gov in the afternoon. And then on, there was I was actually in between that. I did have it was Mankato Affordable Housing, kind of a loose group in Mankato with various nonprofits, and Southwest Partnership is involved too with housing, with finding housing or affordable housing for different groups or for people. Obviously, maybe lower income, but anyway, that's kind of a informative type meeting a lot. Then on Wednesday, the 24th, did have a Paddle Pass Poverty Planning Committee, and as everybody knows, that'll be April 24th with at our Lord County parking ramp on the main floor, and then Board of Directors of the partners in the afternoon, and then on the 26th, did have that was our, of course, that was a little lively there with our legislators at the work session with them, and then of course yesterday with that was a fun trip yesterday.
It was.
Good trip. Got a lot out of it, really. That
Thank you,
concludes
Mark.
my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All the meetings with the other commissioners have already been mentioned. I attended the Lake Crystal City Council meeting with Ryan on February 16th. We talked about Lily Lakes Trail. Participated in my third AMC new commissioner training on February 17th. February 18th, my first AMC Environment and Natural Resources Policy Committee meeting was held. I've done my Blue Earth County Extension Committee orientation, and last night participated at the Lake Crystal Walker Memorial School Board meeting with elected officials, and was asked to bring thanks from their school board as well as staff. Thank you to Blue Earth County for the support. Other conversations with staff and others this last couple weeks has kind of been all about the L's, Leesburg Lake, license tabs, and Lily Lakes trails. As we talked about, and upcoming, plan to participate in my first township officials meeting. Thank you.
Thursday, end of the month.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin, for that report. The things that haven't been mentioned that I participated in was my MVAC personnel and executive meeting. Not a whole lot of new stuff going on there. We had to pass a couple things for Head Start. Then we had an MRCI executive meeting also. We got a little bit of interest on the MAP Drive location that we're trying to sell, so we had to do a little discussion about that, but nothing solid at this point. At our statewide emergency communication board, which I report to that board as a legislative chair, gave my report there. That is a large organization. There's about 30-some people on that call, and they have to do roll call for everything. So, but they get a lot of reports, and they just seem to keep us really well informed with what's going on in the state. So it's helpful to our region. Had several meetings on County Ditch 35. The ledge meeting was mentioned, but I thought it did go fairly well. The group was a little larger. When I first got that first list of people, I thought that was a little large at first, but I think we did manage it pretty well, and it was nice to see the ability of Zoom and being able to see the congressman pop off the floor and talk with us and then jump back out to vote. So technology does have some benefits. Mm-hmm. And then yesterday, just a couple comments on the road tour. I thought that went really well. That is a lot of time and energy that gets put into doing something like that as a county board, but when you're going to spend, $20-30 million to get something done, I think it is certainly our due diligence to make sure it's done right as best can be. We talked to two different groups yesterday that both said, yes, we could have done things differently, and I would imagine we'll say the same thing even after all this work we do. But it is a good process to do, and it is neat to see those buildings and how receptive the other staff are welcoming us and showing us through their facilities. So that is the end of my report. Unless there's anything else for the good of the cause, we will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Stuenberg moves to adjourn.
People seconds.
Got a first and a second for adjournment. Stephanie, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Pap?
Aye.
Commissioner Peepo?
Aye.
Commissioner Landcamer?
Aye.
Commissioner Struenberg?
Aye.
Chair Brunder?
Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you.